Athletes put their body on the line to entertain their fans, and sometimes they tragically give their lives too. As a member of the legendary Hart wrestling family, Canadian wrestler Owen Hart was among the most popular WWE stars of the 90s. In May 1999, he was set to appear as his alter ego, the Blue Blazer, at the Over the Edge pay-per-view event held at Kemper Arena in Kansas City. The plan called for Hart to be slowly lowered into the ring from the rafters with the use of a wire system, but that's not what happened. The rigging malfunctioned, and Owen plunged some 80 feet into the ring. WWE announcer Jim Ross told the silenced crowd that the fall was not a scripted moment or a stunt. TV viewers didn't see the fall, as the broadcast had cut to a highlight reel before his grand entrance. Barely 34 years old, Hart died within minutes after his lungs filled with blood due to a severed aorta. He was pronounced dead at a nearby hospital that same night.
He was such a beloved guy.
Yeah.
Legit. Didn't have an enemy in the world.
Sam Okwaraji left his native Nigeria for Europe to study for his doctorate, but he wound up playing professional soccer. After suiting up for various European teams in the 80s, Okwaraji returned home to join the Nigerian national team in 1988, and a year later found himself playing in a World Cup qualifier against Angola. Okwaraji would never take the pitch in the 1990 World Cup, however. Deep into the second half of the qualifier, a referee ejected an Angolan player. While the Angolans circled around the official in protest, Okwaraji collapsed to the ground a few feet away. His teammates rushed over to him, but there was nothing anybody could do. He was already dead. According to an autopsy, the 25-year-old player had died suddenly of an enlarged heart, made all the worse due to high blood pressure. Nigeria won the game, but were eliminated from World Cup contention not long after. The Giro d'Italia is among Europe's many multi-stage, multi-day bicycle races that send elite riders on a tour across the beautiful countryside. Belgian racer Wouter Waylandt of the team Leopard Trek had won stages at the similar Tour of Spain in 2008 and at the Giro d'Italia in 2010, before competing in that race's 2011 edition. During the third stage, Waylandt wound down the steep, twisty roads of the descent from the Passo del Bocco. About 20 miles from the finish, he lost control and crashed. Some witnesses say he hit a wall. At any rate, he landed hard on his face and bled profusely upon impact. Due to the urgency of his injuries, emergency workers rushed to the fallen rider where he lay on the road. Waylandt was discovered unconscious with a fracture at the base of his skull, and his heart had stopped. Adrenaline and atropine injections, along with other actions, were unsuccessful. Waylandt died at the age of 26. Outside of the United States, the dominant type of motorsport is Formula One, with its lucrative Grand Prix races held on specially built tracks and on public roads. Ayrton Senna was one of the best Formula One drivers ever. In just 10 years in the sport, he won 41 races, including the Monaco Grand Prix 6 times. Senna's home nation of Brazil even held him up as a hero and a national treasure.
By being a racing driver, you are under risk all the time.
On May 1, 1994, Senna competed in a race in the Imola circuit in Italy, driving his Williams Renault car. Suddenly, when dealing with a left-turn corner at a necessarily high speed, his car suddenly jerked to the right. That led Senna to instantly hit a wall, nearly head-on. The cause of the accident was due to trouble with the steering column, after Senna had asked his team to modify it before the race. Not long after, Senna died as a result of the crash, as debris had pierced his helmet and caused several skull fractures. The tragedy was mourned by the people of Brazil as Senna's funeral was broadcast on live TV, and the government declared a 3-day period of mourning for the 34-year-old racer. After an uneventful freshman year at USC, basketball phenom Hank Gathers transferred to the smaller Loyola Marymount University, where he became a school legend. In his junior year, he averaged 32.7 points per game and 13.7 rebounds per game. Gathers' senior year was pretty spectacular too, with an average of 29 points per game and 10.8 rebounds per game. At the time of his passing, he was the 11th leading scorer in college ball history and likely had a stellar NBA career in front of him.
Invincible guy as a player.
He also quietly suffered from heart problems and was prescribed medication for an irregular heartbeat. That didn't stop him from playing in the 1990 West Coast Conference Tournament. After a slam dunk that put LMU up 25-13, Gathers collapsed to the floor and couldn't right himself. Then he stopped breathing. A few hours later, the 23-year-old Gathers was pronounced dead. A According to an autopsy, he died due to a diseased, inflamed, and scarred muscle in his heart. Drag racing is much more than Fast and Furious movies. These fuel-guzzling vehicles and the people who love them compete on the funny car circuit, in which the Kalitta family was royalty. Back in the 50s and 60s, Connie Kalitta's bounty hunter branded cars dominated the sport, and his son Scott took up the business too. The younger Kalitta made a name for himself, winning 2 straight Top Fuel titles in 1994 and 1995. This was a guy who knew on every level how a hot rod worked, and yet he still lost his life to an unthinkable freak accident in June 2008. During the Lucas Oil NHRA Supernational Racing event in Old Bridge Township, New Jersey, Kalitta's car experienced what a police report called a catastrophic mechanical failure that led to an explosion of fuel. That shot Kalitta and his vehicle down the track to the finish line at slightly over 300 miles per hour in under a second. Kalitta died at the age of 46. Lane Frost was a champion of the rodeo, and an early one at that. A national high school finalist in the early 1980s, Frost turned pro and won multiple major events, including the 1987 National Finals Rodeo overall title and many championships on the circuit. He could even emerge victorious in rides with bulls few others could handle. Frost was a star competitor in the Cheyenne Frontier Days rodeo event, held on July 30th, 1989. In PBR bull riding, a perfect score is 100. That day, Frost scored a remarkable 85 points on the bull known as Taking Care of Business. Immediately after the historic ride in front of a crowd of at least 10,000 rodeo fans, the bull attacked Frost, striking the athlete in the back with its horn. Not only did the strike immediately fracture several of Frost's ribs, but a rib then severed a significant blood vessel. Frost didn't have a pulse when he was rushed out of the arena and was reported dead upon arrival to Memorial Hospital. He was 25 years old.